Welcome back to Waimea Bay as we are about to start the final heat of the day here at the Quiksilver in memory of Eddie Aikau. This one features a former Eddie Aikau champ and Bruce Irons, Makua Kai Rothman, Ian Walsh, Nathan Fletcher, Big Ben Wilkinson, Peter Mel, and Takayuki Wakita will be out there going for broke, going for hundreds to try to take this one on. The front runner is John Florence with 301 points to his name with an all-star performance in that last heat. Two scores coming in the high 80s. And while we were away, Ross Williams, things got started out in the lineup.
Well, unfortunately, Noah Johnson suffered a pretty big contusion to his leg, so he pulled out of the event halfway through. You saw that big frame, Ben Wilkinson, pull into that nice little chip shot there. It is no joke. When it's really big out here, it's tough to get through that short break.
So great to see the younger generation taking over. Makua Rothman has been on fire. He was limping a little bit from a couple of wipeouts he had the last one. 3 takers on this one. Deepest Makua. Further up into the open face, Peter Mel, aka the Condor. Multiple top 5 finishes in the Eddie. Out in front, still deep and still riding. Makua celebrating that last ride and letting the fans hear it. We have a few waves with a couple of guys on it. 3 takers on this one. And Makua getting on the board. But now in his first call up to be able to surf in the Eddie Aikau event, he finds himself on top of the leaderboard. His best wave in 89, got an 88 in the same heat. That was his second heat performed, and was able to take the lead off Ross Clark-Jones and Shane Dorian as we're into the final matchup of the day. Ross, did you see that coming?
Yeah, John, it's very convenient for me to say yes now because, you know, here we are, Dr. Obvious, looking at him at #1. But, you know, I did a couple interviews with some magazines a week ago, and I said some of my favorite big wave surfers at the top of my list was John, because I was telling you earlier, he surfs big waves like he surfs pipeline, of riding a smaller board as you can get deep in that pocket and not poke. You know, you get those long surfboards, sometimes they can kind of get stuck in the curve of the wall. That being said, we were talking about it earlier, you need all that girth and that foam to catch the damn thing. So where are you going to go? You really need to find that perfect concoction. And, you know, John Pizell, give him credit, he's made a lot of really nice crafts that have, the guys have been choosing lately.
Really good to see that. We saw Pizell, he said he learned everything from Jeff Bushman.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance.
He's got a shot. I mean, they're pretty solid, substantial scores, aren't they? You know, a couple of 80-somethings, that's big. He's got to get 2 massive set waves pretty much and successfully ride in front of the whitewash. Who is that? We just saw Takayuki absolutely take gas, and behind him, I can't tell who that with the backlit light there, but someone gritzed right in the bowl. And then Ian Walsh, good to see him successfully ride a pretty decent wave here at Waimea. You know, so far his first round was pretty frustrating for him, so nice to see him get on the board.
So crazy wipeout, 1 successful ride into the flats there for Ian Walsh. Takayuki Wakita, obviously famous for having a section of the reef named after him at Pipe. What do you like about this approach from Ian Walsh?
Just pretty steady Eddie right there. You know, he knew right there to take off in that slot, and his positioning was very it was perfect in the sense that he knew he was going to ride it out into the channel and get a score on the board. So, you know, we saw Greg Long do it in 2009. You never know if, you know, if a flurry of 30-foot waves comes in and he gets a few of them, he could crawl back into this thing.
It's fun when you watch Ian Walsh surf because he always is going to show you something that he's capable of doing in small waves or in really solid waves. I think in the last handful of years, you just kept thinking about him in really big conditions. Right. Then he'll go and win Sunset. You know, obviously it gets really big there, but then we saw him also get a call up as a wild card in Tahiti, and he ended up beating Taj Burrow on turns. Right. And you're going, wow, this guy has so much depth and dedication to every aspect of the water game. But usually when someone surfs 50-foot waves or bigger, that's kind of going to take your center highlight, you know, when you think about a surfer doing the impossible. Sort of the established lineup and sort of a pecking order on rotation as we get back to this one with really digging in and making a move. Bruce Irons, former champ. A lot of steps on the open face on the drop, but he lands it. Super stylish and in control, and he'll fade out of there. Bruce, member, had the 44 in the first heat, and now 3 riders up out the back. Deepest is Pete Mel, Ian Walsh, Ben, and Nathan Fletcher. all pushing each other super deep. All three surfers going down on that last attempt.
Well, there's waves at Waimea that look really scary and you don't want anything to do with it. And then there's waves that just look like a lot of fun. And that last wave, there's a reason why 3 guys shared it. That was a very approachable wave. You know, it was big and giant and steep. That was just a fun-looking wave at Waimea Bay, and that's the reason why all 3 of these guys whipped it. Look at, they got big smiles on their face. They're definitely enjoying themselves. And then Jamie had to fall, so for the integrity of the event, you got to give those interferences out. So that was justified. Bruce Irons, as you mentioned, Joe, so stylish. I mean, he is sleepwalking through that wave. Just a medium-sized wave for today's standards. But Bruce getting a nice little wave on the board. And here's that wave. Look how approachable this thing looks for today. Such a clean, fun, late drop. All 3 of these guys got plenty of room. That's a good-looking wave at Waimea. But again, you can see the power there. As soon as that wave exploded behind him, each and every one of those guys got flicked.
Incredible, but it almost makes it that much more prestigious when these guys know it's not always just going to be thrown on. They'll, shut down, they'll lose money.
Oh, yeah.
They want to keep this event really sacred.
That's true. They really do protect the integrity of the platform on what this contest is run on, which is it's got to be 40 to 50 foot faces, and they do have fun. They got to have a kind of a wild sense of humor because, a typical day down here, even if it's not a massive day, you'll see some tourists that are from, say, Texas or Ohio, just somewhere in the Midwest where they've never experienced the ocean. A lot of our military men, and they'll jump in the water when it's in between sets, and next thing you know, a set will come and they'll get absolutely pummeled in a beach break.
Throughout the winter months, this El Nino has been a special one. We're down to 11:45 on the clock. Bruce Irons, a former champ out here. We saw Ian Walsh really get more active in this matchup. We know how amazing his younger twin brothers have been as far as water safety over there at PI.
If you're not there, they're going to have to cop another wave on a set. And that's when these guys get in trouble, when they have to, hold their breath and take 3 or 4 waves on the head. So, water safety really has come a long way in the last 5-6 years.
Saw Nathan Fletcher in this matchup representing the Goofy Foots, 24 and a 30 to his name. Now just jumping off the ledge and going down. Wakita, another big wipeout, as he just toppled over and somersaults over the falls. Remember, he already had one of those earlier in this heat. Came in at a 6-point ride. Wakita, solid surfer on every venue on the North Shore. As more takers now deep on this one. Makua, Kai Rothman sharing it with Ian Walsh. Walsh still with some room to fade as Makua's down. This will be Walsh's 4th and final wave of this heat, his last wave of the Eddie Aikau here in 2016. So that means only one thing. He's looking to pull in on the shore break if it will open up.
It's deep water right there, Joe. I can't believe we haven't seen it today. Kelly had the little one in the corner, but we wanted to see someone do that classic Andy Irons or Michael Ho, Bruce. I think those 3 guys kind of had the best ones with that massive beach break left-handed that turns into like a chopu wave on the sand. But the waves are so big today that a lot of those set waves guys are getting, it's just pushing into the middle of the bay. It's too big for those reforms.
As we take a look at the start of this one, big ledge drop for Takayuki.
Yeah, I love Takayuki, how he just committed to it. I think he had a good knowledge, he knew that he probably wasn't going to make it. He said, I don't care, I'm going anyways, and just hucked himself right over his board. Makua, only 2 shots left after this wave here, Joe. If he's going to catch John, he needs a couple of 80-somethings. That's not going to get the job done right there. So, he still has 2 waves left to catch in this heat. They got to be near perfect. Everyone talks about being the deepest and the steepest kind of thing. That's the perfect recipe for a magic score, but it's high risk, high reward. If you take off too deep at Waimea, you're going to get shut down. You're going to get behind that huge, big old wall, that bowl. It's going to just absolutely vaporize you when you get to the bottom of the wave. So you have to really put yourself in a sweet spot.
So we see Wakita, another 6-point ride for that heavy wipeout. He'll have 2 more opportunities.
For me personally, I love seeing guys commit to a big late drop. If they make that drop and then get vaporized by that whitewash, I would still like to see some solid scores. And it feels like they've loosened up a little bit as the day went on.
Here comes Wakita now. Clean entry. Total control. After a couple of wipeouts, he'll hang on to this one for a bit and then go down. Wakita, long time North Shore standout.
has been providing over the recent history this platform to show that big wave surfing has grown so much. It's not just a sport for the locals here in Hawaii. It's become very, very big.
But you see these guys that come from different places. For Wakita, even making a name for himself on a pipe, he was going on waves that really weren't waves people wanted. He'd pack closeouts, that little section of the reef there. He'd go the wrong way a lot of times and had a lot of injuries because of it, but he knew that's how he was going to make his mark. Got a lot of respect for it, and to get the invite to perform at Waimea Bay is something special. Last wave turns in a 25 out of a possible 100, and now we're looking at minute 40. Ross, are you looking for John right now? I wonder how he's feeling.
Yeah, you'd have to think that he could start looking for that champagne bottle, because at this point it's pretty tough for Makua to pass him. And here he goes.
Now locking in Makua Kai Rothman. Perfect control, delayed the big drop, and an absolute explosion behind him of whitewater. Nice low, solid stance, and he's going to have that one with total control. Added a little bit of drama with that setup out the back on that delayed drop. And he should be getting a decent number here, Ross.
Yeah, solid. And we keep talking about what he needs to get the win, but regardless, putting in a solid performance. This is our past world champion on the Big Wave Tour. Makua's going to be stoked. He's got out there today, and he's definitely represented.
Readjusting the line at the top of a wave like that, Ross, what's the degree of difficulty there?
On a wave like that right there, Makua definitely was in control. Sometimes you take off on a big old bomb and you're just on your tippy toes trying to hang on for dear life. On that side of the wave there, you saw Makua was the man in control. He was actually able to steer his board down there. So, that was pretty good surfing right there from Makua.
So Makua Kai Rothman trying to fight back right here to try to put himself in a chance to take this one out, but we're starting to get close to the countdown, and he might be running out of time after waiting from since 2009 to 2016 with John Florence's first ever chance to compete in this event. John Florence is the 2016 Quiksilver in memory of Eddie Aikau champion, proving that he might possibly be the best surfer in the whole world at the moment.